Hello everybody and welcome. Welcome everybody, I am the Shy Hat and we're doing HackerFrogs after school. This is web app hacking session number 5. I hope everybody had a good weekend and a good Easter holiday. We're here to learn about SQL injection today. So everybody in chat, I'd like to say hello. I'd like to see some smileys in chat, just so we know that everybody is here. I'm here, and a special welcome to our good students, Hachi and Ilhan Idris. Welcome, welcome. All right, so we're talking about SQL injection today. Let's take a look at what we learned in last week's workshop. Ilhan Idris says that they watched Network Chuck. Network Chuck is a great channel all about cybersecurity and other network topics. I have a number of YouTube channels I like to watch. Network Chuck is one of them, along with David Bombal and who else? I like to watch John Hammond. John Hammond is a very popular YouTuber who covers cybersecurity. But on with today's workshop. So this is the 5th Intro to Web Exploitation workshop. In the previous workshop, we learned about the following. So we're not allowed to say this word over here on YouTube. So I will use the word hacking instead. So it's Web App Hacking Workshop. We learned about the following web app hacking concepts. So we learned about SQL, otherwise known as Structured Query Language. It's a programming language used for managing data held in relational databases. So simply put, SQL allows users to access and manage data contained in relational databases, which are common components in most web applications. So moving on, we're going to be taking a look at TryHackMe. We're going to be learning SQL injection exploits through the TryHackMe platform. TryHackMe is a popular cybersecurity education platform with educational modules called rooms that span a great number of cybersecurity disciplines. If you do not have an account over at TryHackMe, you will need to make an account in order to participate in today's workshop. But fortunately, we're not going to access any materials that you need to pay for. It's all going to be free stuff. In this workshop, we'll be making use of one of TryHackMe's interactive rooms to learn more about SQL exploitation. So let me turn down the volume a little bit more on my music. Okay, so this is the link for the TryHackMe room we're going to be making use of. Please navigate to that room after you have logged in. But so if we want to use the TryHackMe platform, we must have a valid user account for the website. If needed, sign up for an account at the following URL. This is tryhackme.com/signup, but we're going to assume that everybody already has an account. But if anybody does not have an account, go ahead and type in the chat so we know that we might have to wait up a little bit for you to catch up to where we are. But in the meantime, let's go over to the SQL injection room. So you will see that there's a banner over here. I'm going to completely get out of this room just to demonstrate how to join the room, just in case you need to learn how to do that. So I'm going to search for the room. SQL injection. So there are 2 rooms. If you search for SQL, there's going to be 2 rooms that are labeled as SQL injection. We're looking for the one that is labeled as medium difficulty over here, and also it's going to be free. So after you go into the room, there will be a green button over here that says Join Room. You're going to need to click on that. And after that, you'll be able to access all of the contents of the room. Okay, so we're talking about, in task 1, we're talking about SQL Structured Query Language. In this case, we're talking about injection. and this is referred to as SQLi. It's an attack on a web application database server that causes malicious queries to be executed. When a web application communicates with the database using input from a user that hasn't been properly validated and runs potential of an attacker to steal, delete, or alter private. So basically what you need to know is that SQL injection is basically injecting code into a user field that communicates with the SQL database. And through interacting with that database in a malicious manner, we're able to get the database to give us information that we shouldn't be able to see. But the first question over here is, what does SQL stand for? Well, it stands for this right here. So you can simply copy that. I'm going to turn off the music just because it's a little distracting to me. So you can just copy that and then paste this in. Whoops. And click on submit, and that's going to be the answer for that question right there. So task 2 is talking about what a database is. We covered basically what a database is. It's an electronic way of storing collections of data in an organized manner. So if you remember, there's so the largest object in a database server is the database, and a database is made of many different. Oh, this is the database. Okay. So in this case, the database server is the largest object, and that is spread out into several databases. Maybe there's a database called shop, one called staff, and one called accounts. And inside of each one of these databases, there are several tables. In shop, there's a table called users and products and orders, and in staff, there's one called users and information and audit, etc., etc. And inside of tables, there's a further subdivision. There are columns and there are rows. So a column is going to be these things at the top of the table, and that is a label for what kind of information goes in that column. And underneath the column are rows, and these are individual data entry points, basically. So in this table here, there's ID, username, and password as the columns. And in each row, there's some different information. So in the first row, ID 1, the username is John, and the password is pass123, and etc., etc. So basically, you have to understand there's a table, and there are columns, and there are rows. And that's all you need to know to start off in your SQLi, in your SQL injection journey. Okay. So in the questions in this section, task 2, there's a question, what is the acronym for the software that controls a database? So in this case, we're talking about this fancy acronym right here, which is DBMS. So DBMS stands for Database Management System. And that is the answer for the first question. DBMS. And the second question is, what is the name of the grid-like structure which holds the data? Okay, so if somebody in chat could type out what the answer to this is, I would really appreciate it. I think we all know what the answer is. It is something that you put, you'll usually find it in a dining room or a living room. And Ilhan Idris says it is table. That is correct. Okay, so we can move on to task number 3. What is SQL? Hachi also says table. Congratulations, both of you. All right, so SQL is SQL, also called SQL. There are some people who get really mad if you say SQL instead of SQL. I think either way is correct, but some people are very particular as far as which way you refer to it. So we have to understand select. Select is the most basic query we can do inside of SQL. So it's select is what enables us to choose what is going to be returned. So select star from users, basically select every column. So basically every column is going to be returned from the users table, in which case this might be the result. Remember that star stands in for every column, so it stands in for ID and username and password. So if you don't know the names of the different columns, you can always select star instead of a specific column. Okay. Otherwise, we can just select specific column names. In this case, username, comma password from users. And this is the result. And we also learned about, in the last workshop, we also learned about this limit filter word. So limit 1 is only going to return one row from this particular query. And this is a query which selects selects everything from the user table where the username equals to admin. So where is another filter word, and we're able to return only the row where the username is equal to admin. So username admin right here, so we return all the information here, but only this row. And we can also do this right here. So this in a lot of computer languages means not equal. So the exclamation point, otherwise known as a bang, is going to stand for not whatever it is. So in this case, not equal. So not equal to admin is these ones. So let's move on. So the important thing about today's lesson when we're talking about SQL is this word right here, the union statement. And the union statement is going to combine the results of two or more select statements to retrieve data from either or multiple tables. The rules to this query are that the union statement must retrieve the same number of columns in each select statement, and the columns have to be of a similar data type, and the column order has to be the same. So what we can do in this case is we can retrieve data from, thank you very much for following, Canon144. Thank you very much. Okay, so what we have to understand is that we can use a union select statement in order to return information from more than one table. Back when we were learning about the SQL murder mystery, we were able to access this using the join statement. But in this case, we're using union. So let me take a look at what I have in my presentation. Okay. So we're talking about SQL injection. Okay, we're not quite there yet. So if we have two different tables that we want to get information from, so we want to get information from customers and suppliers over here, we would do a union select. So first we'd select these different columns from customers, and then we would use the keyword union select these different columns from suppliers, and we would be able to get this information that is both from the customers and the suppliers tables. Okay, so there's not too much more relevant we need to learn from this section, but if you want to go back, go back later after we're done the workshop, feel free to take a look. There's a lot of good information here about SQL, but nothing we're going to be using right now. But if you want to go back and take a look at this information later, I encourage you to do so. So which SQL statement is used to retrieve data? Okay, so do you remember which statement we use to retrieve data? It's the most basic command we use in SQL. So Ilhan is correct. It is the select statement. So we can do lowercase or uppercase to answer this question. Okay. The next question is, which SQL clause can be used to retrieve data from multiple tables? Okay, so which one can be used to retrieve data from multiple tables? We were just talking about it, in fact. And we're going to be using it in our SQL injection techniques. So Hachi and Ilhan both answer union, so that is the correct answer, union. And which SQL statement is used to add data? So this one you can get from here, right here. So the update statement tells the database we want to update one or more rows within a table. So you can add entries into a database by using the update keyword. But we're not going to be using the update keyword so much in today's workshop, but the answer here is update. It is not update, it is, wait, no, it's insert. It's insert. All right, so now we'll move on to task 4. We're talking about SQL injection. So what is SQL injection? So the point wherein a web application using SQL can turn into a SQL injection when user-provided data gets included in a SQL query. So basically, the most basic place where we know that our user input is going to interact with the SQL database is in a login form. So because the login form also always checks against a SQL database in order to tell whether or not your username or password is correct. So what does it look like? So this is an example of a website that might be taking information from a SQL database. So it has so each blog entry has a unique ID number, and it can be set to public or private depending on whether or not it's ready for a public release. So it's going to check against this particular SQL statement right here. Select star from blog where ID equals 1 and private equals 0, limit 1. But inside of the URL, we only get to set the ID. So we're supposed to only be able to set the ID, but we could use a SQL injection in order to modify this. So we could use this particular string right here as a SQL injection technique. So instead of blog equals ID number, we do ID number and then semicolon to stop the statement, and then the double dashes in order to comment out the rest of it. So in which case, this particular part of the SQL statement is not returned, and we're able to see the blog entries, whether or not they're private or not. So the original statement right here stipulates that private has to be set to false, but in the new statement, private, it doesn't matter what the private status of it is. So in this section, there's a very simple question. What character signifies the end of a SQL query? It's basically the same as a lot of other programming languages, where you have to stop all statements with this particular character. Do you know what that character is? Hachi is correct. It is a semicolon. So this is the answer right here, and we submit that. Okay. So as for this, okay, so let's take a look at what a SQL login query might look like. So in a web app, if this statement were to be supplied by the user, it would log the user in if the statement returned true. So in a lot of web apps, it uses a very similar statement to this. So it's select everything from users where username equals to admin and password equals to password. So, okay, so it's going to be username equals whatever the user submits right here, and password is whatever the user submits right here. If, for example, we were trying to log in as the admin and we supplied this password, it would check the database to see if this username and this password combination existed or not. Okay, so next we're going to go to in-band SQL injection. So in-band SQL injection is the first type of SQL injection we're going to be taking advantage of in today's workshop. So in-band SQL injection is SQL injection where the results of the injected query can be seen in the output of the web app. It is considered the easiest type of SQL injection to exploit. So before we move on, we have to start up our virtual machine. So let's take a moment to do that right now. So in task number 5, open this up, and there's going to be a green Start Machine button right here. What I want you to do is to click on this. and then it says that it's going to be available in a few minutes. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to click on this button. If your screen didn't split into two, we need to click on this button at the top of the web page labeled Show Split View. So click on that, and that's going to show the virtual machine over here in the right-hand window pane. What we need to do is we need to click on this button right here. Oh wait, okay. What we need to do is we need to wait for this to finish loading. Okay, so while that's loading, let's go back to our presentation. So in-band SQL injection is SQL injection where the input of the SQL query and the output of the SQL query are both going to be the web app. So you're going to be able to see output of the SQL query inside of the web app. And we're also going to be taking a look at error-based SQL injection, which is a type of in-band SQL injection where SQL-related error messages are returned to the web page output. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at a web app where if we were to mess around with the SQL statements over here, we would see a SQL-related error message. And in doing so, we're able to find out more information about the SQL database and the underlying tables. Okay, so, and we're also going to be learned about in-band SQL injection union select statements. So if you remember, union select statements allow rows to return from multiple tables at once. So usually in a web app, it's going to be returning data from one table, but by using the union SQL statement inside of SQL, we're going to get the web app to return data from multiple tables to us, including any information from tables that we wish to enumerate. So in order to use union SQL select statements, we have to provide the same number of columns from both queries, and we have to make sure that the number of columns in both of these queries is the same, and we have to make sure that the type of data returned from each set of columns is also the same. And in doing so, this is another type of SQL injection, another category. So union-based SQL injection is a type of in-band SQL injection which uses a SQL union operator with a select statement in order to output additional information from the database. So let's go back to our web app over here. And we're going to click on Show Split View because it seems that it disappeared. Oh, it's taking quite a while to initialize over here. Everybody, could you report how far your initialization process is up to? I'm up to 40 right now. Type in chat if your VM has finished initializing. So if it has, I want you to give us a smiley in chat and done. Okay, so it looks like Ilhan Idris is ahead of the curve. Ah, okay, so I'm the slowest one. I'm sorry. I'm holding up the class, everybody. So while we're waiting, I'm wondering, Hachi, did you take a look at the recording from the PicoCTF walkthrough that I recorded last week? We went through quite a few of the beginner level challenges. I'm just wondering if you had an opportunity to take a look at the VOD. I noticed you were using VirtualBox with Windows 11 operating system. Yeah, I am using VirtualBox, and I am using Windows 11. So that's my method of compartmentalizing everything. because I would rather use a VM to demonstrate all this stuff for you guys instead of using my my native operating system. Okay, so everybody, so after this opens up, you're going to want to put this in its own. Well, I'm going to put it in its own browser tab by using this button right here, which is called View in Full Screen. Okay, so this is so that's much bigger and much nicer for us to look at. Okay, and after that, you can go back to the original web page, and you can click on this button right here, which is Exit Split View, and that means that that our TryHackMe web page is going to be in its own browser pane, and our virtual machine is going to be in its own browser pane as well. Hachi says, I did find some walkthroughs for the ones I haven't solved. Yeah, that's a great idea. You definitely want to take a look at some walkthroughs, especially for the challenges that you did not finish, so that you can further your education as far as what you should have done is concerned. Sometimes you'll take a look at those walkthroughs and you'll kick yourself because the answer was in front of you the whole time and you weren't able to find it. Okay, so let's go back to task 5 now that we have our vulnerable website, and we also have the web page over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of this particular website in order to do some SQL injection. So the first thing we need to do is we need to check if anything inside of our control is vulnerable to SQL injection. A lot of people think that it's just going to be these fields inside of the web page, but in fact, sometimes the URL itself is also a place where you can do SQL injection. In this case, if you add a single quote over here and press enter, then you're going to get an error message. So access violation, you have an error in your SQL syntax. So this means that we're able to interact with the SQL database through the URL right here. So usually it's just a single quote that you can do to try to test it. Sometimes you will have to use a double quote because sometimes the statement is using a single quote and sometimes it's a double quote, and depending on which it is, you're going to have to alternate to the other one. So we know that this database is susceptible to injection because we received the error message right here. So there's a whole walkthrough over here talking about what we can do to check for the vulnerable SQL query. And in this case, we're going to be doing some SQL injection by using this statement right here. So one, this would be the article number right here, and then we would do a union select. Union. Whoops. So union select. So it's 1 and then space union select 1. So 1 is basically this is basically a new column. So it's a new column. It's going to select 1. It doesn't select anything else. And we're checking to see how many columns are in this original SQL statement. So if we do union select 1, and then we return, and then it says the use select statements have a different number of columns. So in this case, we know that we union selected the wrong number of columns. We selected 1, but there's more than 1 column that's returned by this query right here. So it says union select 1, and then because that didn't work, we're going to union select 1, 2, and this is selecting 2 columns. So 1, 2 to try 2 columns in this union select statement, and it still says that it has a different number of columns. So we can move on to union select 3. So 1, 2, 3. So we're checking to see if the union select has 3 columns or not, and something returns. So what it returned was the article with the ID number 1. But the thing is that we don't see the numbers 1, 2, and 3 because in fact the names for the columns right here are either the names of columns, or you can also just do these as strings. And another thing to note right here, Ilhan asks, so if a hacker does SQL injection, will the website's owner detect the action done by the hacker? Only if they dig really deep into the logs. Although most servers do record all the actions taken by users, in most cases, unless the server is very underused, there's going to be a lot of traffic inside of those history logs. But I guess it would be a lot easier if the people looking through the logs were to look for specific SQL injection strings, in which case it would be easier for them. Ilhan says, because I believe this might have happened on the banking site. The banking site. Are you talking about a specific hack or a specific incident? Are you talking about something like a famous news story? Okay, so in this case, we're doing the union select, and the union select should return A, B, and C, because we're just saying we want to see this information right here. So if we return this, it doesn't return. This web app is designed in such a way that it only returns the first SQL query that returns true. So what we need to do is we need to select an ID number that doesn't exist. So we could do ID equals 0, or we could do ID equals 99. We just have to return a number that doesn't exist in the system. And in that way, it's going to default to returning the union selected items right here, in which case we see A, B, and C. So A is the column with the article number, B is the title, and C is the body text. Right. Okay. So we've determined the number of columns for our union select over here. Hold on, I'm going to take a little sip of water. So we're on our way to enumerating the Martin user's password. So this is the goal for this level of the SQL injection game, and we also see here the exact SQL query that we're sending to the database. So this is a very convenient thing for learning. Okay, so let's take a look at, so because we know that our goal is to get the user Martin's password over here, we're going to go back to the page, and this is what we've done so far. So in our latest injection string, so wealthy mindset frame asks, do you reckon hackers will just use ML, machine learning, just to hack robots? I'm not too sure what you mean by hack robots. Do you mean like AI systems, or do you mean like literal robots, like the Boston Dynamics robotic dog, or like somebody's Roomba, or like some other type of appliance? Yes, AI systems. Well, hackers already use machine learning to aid in their hacking. There were some exercises that I tried as part of the Try Hack Me Advent of Cyber event for this year. In fact, I can look it up really quick for you. Oh, it's 2023. Okay. So you might want to take a look at this when you have some time. Wealthy mindset frame. Okay, so let's go back to so we've recently used this particular string right here to retrieve basically like a blank slate with just our union select items right here. So next thing that we want to do is we want to determine what the name of the database is. And this right here, this is a function which returns the name of the current database that is being accessed. So it's a function called database. So what we need to do is replace this last item right here with database and then some parentheses to indicate that it's a function. Don't worry, you can call me Wealthy. Okay, so Wealthy, hello and welcome to the stream. I hope you're having fun, and I hope you can learn a lot with us, and maybe we can learn from you as well. All right, so it's A and B, and the last thing that we're going to return is the name of the database, and that should replace this right here. So we send that, and the answer here is SQLi _1. So that's the name of the database being used. Wealthy says, I'm actually learning about SQL injections using HTTP. Hack the Box. Oh, so Hack the Box is another cybersecurity education platform. And yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using Hack the Box, or Try Hacking, or PicoCTF. These are all education resources that we should take advantage of, and we should use them as best we can. All right, so now that we have the name of the database, we can use this to further enumerate the tables inside of the database, right? So we've got SQL1 as the name of the database. So the next step in the walkthrough here is kind of a lot more complicated than the previous SQL statements. So our next query will gather a list of tables that are in this database. So it's going to be everything is the same up until after the second column, in which case we're going to be doing a group concatenation function with the table name as the argument from information _ schema.tables, where table schema equals SQL _1. So this is a very specific string that we can use as a SQL injection technique to gather the table names from a particular database where the database name equals to this right here. So what we can do is we can copy this, and then we can go to the web page, and immediately after the ID equals, we can just paste this in. Whoops. We have to make sure that the ID is equal to, yeah, this right here. All right, so everybody, can you type in the chat what the name of the tables are? Wealthy says, do you think it's worth learning machine learning for the future of cybersecurity? I think a lot of cybersecurity professionals are learning about machine learning in order to keep up with where the technology is headed right now. In fact, you can use machine learning to automate a lot of stuff, a lot of testing inside of cybersecurity. And yeah, so I think it's a very good thing to learn right now. So Hachi says article and staff users. Okay, so let's check that. Okay, so I've made some sort of error here. Oh, okay. So it has to be, what's missing? Union select. Okay, so it's article and staff users. All right, Hachi is correct. Okay, let's move on. Wealthy says, you want to see the SQL tables, use show tables. Show tables. Show tables. Is that a function? We could try that a little bit later, but let's follow the walkthrough for right now. Okay, so now that we know the name of the tables, we know that what we know is that the info that we're looking for is probably in the staff users table and not in the article table. So we can use the next injection string right here to get the names of the columns in the table where the table is equal to this table name right here. So it's group concat. So group concat is the common way of getting the information in this SQL injection, because the group concat function is going to return everything in one column, as opposed to separating it into separate columns. All right, so we're going to get the column names from this particular column right here, columns from information schema, where table name is equal to staff users. So we can just use this as the string. Wealthy says, I mainly used it in MySQL CLI. MySQL CLI. I do believe that that this particular database is a MySQL database. Wealthy, have you used SQL as part of a job that you've done before? I'm just curious. So the next injection string we can inject just over here, delete the old one, and insert the new one. So if you know what the column names are, please type the column names in the chat for me. So let's see. Wealthy says no. I have learned SQL before. Okay. So did you learn SQL as part of as a developer course or like a programming course? So let's see what the names of the columns are in this staff users table. Okay, so we've got ID, password, and username. So these are all of the usual suspects. So Wealthy says self-taught. Okay, so I'm assuming that you learned SQL self-taught in order to teach yourself how to do web app hacking, or as part of something else. Okay, so we have these names right here: ID, password, and username. So this is part of a gradual enumeration of the SQL database in order to achieve our goal, which is to get the Martin user's password. If we go back to the walkthrough over here, the query results provided for 3 columns: ID, password, and username. So we can use the username and password columns for our following query to retrieve the user's information. So one thing so I already knew a bit about SQL injection before I did this particular Try Hack Me room, but what really came in, what I took away from doing this room is just the enumeration using the union select statements to first get the name of the database, and then to get to the name of the tables, and then to get the names of the columns one after the other. This was all very useful, but furthermore, I learned this particular trick right here, which was to return the SQL information in a specific format. So in this case, we're going to return the username column, but we're going to separate the username and the password columns with the colon over here, and then we're going to separate each one of the entries with a HTML line break right here. So that I found very interesting. So we can use this as our injection string. Go back here. Okay, so can you tell me what the so before so you guys go ahead and do this, and if you could tell me in the chat what the user Martin's password is. So Wealthy says, do we use SQL map for retrieving SQL values like username, password, or other info? Okay, so Wealthy is referring to an automated tool called SQL map, and SQL map is a tool for automated SQL injection, and you can do a lot of different things with SQL map, including dumping all the information from all the tables in the database. We're not going to cover use of SQL map in this course because we need to. What we're going to do instead is we're going to teach about Burp Suite after we cover SQL injection, and after that you will have enough to do some self-study from that point onwards. But Hachi says that the password is $$word. And if we were to send the SQL injection string, that is the answer. So we can just copy this, and this is the answer that we need to supply to the web app over here. So inside the answer column, what is the user Martin's password? Please paste this in, and then click on check password. Okay, and that finishes this particular section, and we're awarded with the flag right here. What we need to do is we need to copy this and supply it as the answer for the question in task number 5. So paste that in and click submit. And your answer is correct. Okay. All right. So if you finished that particular task, please type in the chat Union United and then some smileys and the OS frog if you're in Twitch. All right, glad to see it, glad to see it. Okay, so the last thing we're going to be learning in today's lesson is we're going to be learning about blind SQLi authentication bypass. So this is basically using SQL injection in order to log into a web app without knowing a username and password. Okay, Wealthy is also in as well. Wealthy, are you also following along with this room with us? I hope you are. But if not, that's fine. I appreciate it either way. Okay, so let's learn about SQL injection. Where are we? Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're talking about two new concepts right now. We're talking about blind SQLi, and we're talking about authentication bypass. Partly, okay, well, anything is fine. So we're talking about blind SQL injection. Blind SQL injection and in-band SQL injection are opposites. Blind SQL injection is where SQL injection where the error messages resulting from improper SQL queries have been disabled, but the requests are going through nonetheless. So sometimes people will try to check for SQL injection, but the app won't return any output that indicates that the SQL injection has occurred. So they might give up, but the SQL injection might be happening regardless. So the second thing we're learning about is authentication bypass. So authentication bypass is a type of blind SQL injection where insecurely written code allows the login of a user to the web app without the use of a proper username and/or password. So authentication bypass is something that we check for a lot inside of like CTF challenges or like CTF boxes, like hack the box or try hack me stuff. So this right here is an example of an authentication bypass payload. The most basic auth bypass SQL command is illustrated by the SQL command shown above. Note that there is a space present in the command after the double dashes. So what does this string mean right here? So let's explain. So the single quote closes out the original query. It might be username equals to something something. And then if this portion is not included, the SQL base will return an error. So we have to include the single quote or the double quote, which closes out the original statement. The next part, or, is what enables the bypass, because it enables us to create our own true statement. So it's going to be, so SQL statements are going to log you in if the SQL statement returns true. So we have to find a way to have the statement return true, even if we don't know the username or password. So this is where the or comes in. So it's going to be A or B, and we're going to make sure that B is true. So even if there's no matching username, because the or conditional is used, the overall query can return true if we supply the correct statement. In this case, it's going to be 1 equals 1. So it could be anything else that's going to return true. You could do 1 plus 2 equals 3 or whatever, but in most cases, we just use 1 equals 1 because that's the simplest way to do it. So the double dashes in space, which comments out the rest of the query, is the end of this. So Wealthy says, do you think most web SQL queries are sanitized nowadays? Plus, don't they do input validation? Well, that's exactly what you need to do in order to secure your applications against SQL injection. I think that that most new SQL queries that are written using modern frameworks and modern languages do include input validation and sanitization as a default, but we're not always dealing with new web apps. Sometimes there's a lot of old web apps out there that haven't been written securely, and that's where we find a lot of SQL injection. Okay, so if we go back to the web page, over here, under the authentication bypass section, it's going to say exactly what we were just talking about. So this is the SQL statement that is used to log in the user in this particular app. It's select star from users, where username equals username, and password equals password, limit 1. And both username and password are user-controlled fields. So to make this query into something that always returns true, we use this password field that we were talking about just now. In which case, it's going to turn the SQL statement into this right here. So select everything from users where username equals nothing and password equals nothing, or 1 equals 1. So it's going to either select this, which is false, or 1 equals 1, which is true. And that's going to let us log into the web app. So if we go back, and as the username, we do the authorization bypass string. And the password, we can do anything for the password. And click on login. Then it says you bypass the login and can now move on to level 3. Wealthy says we would use BBQ SQL for blind SQL injection. BBQ SQL, is that the name of a SQL injection tool? I think I'm pretty sure you can just use regular SQL map to do blind SQL injection, but they're coming out with new tools all the time. Okay, so we're also given a flag for this particular exercise right here. What you can do is you can copy that, and you can supply this as the answer for question number 2 over here, and click submit. Uh-oh, the answer is incorrect. Oh, wait. Okay, before we do that, we have to click on level 3. So this is the flag for the previous level, level 2. So to actually go to level 3, you have to click on this button that says level 3. And then on the new page, there's another flag which we can that we can copy, and that is the answer for this right here. So click on submit, and it says your answer is correct. So before we close out today's workshop, let's first talk about the authorization bypass string. So this is an example of a SQL authorization bypass string. But the thing is that this is not always the correct string that you use for authorization bypass, because not every SQL system uses this syntax. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that this particular app right here is using MySQL as their SQL version that they're using for their software. But as we asked our good friend ChatGPT, what are the most common types of SQL software used in modern web apps? So it answered MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQLite, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle Database, Amazon Aurora, and MariaDB. So all of these different SQL systems use slightly different SQL syntax and functions. So you'll find that although this injection string for authorization bypass might work with a bunch of different web apps, it's not going to work for all of them. So the answer to this is that there are a bunch of GitHub repositories which talk about SQL injection authorization bypass, and they have a bunch of different bypass strings right here that you can use. And in fact, if you were to use an automated SQL injection program like SQL Map, or if you were to use Burp Suite to try to do SQL injection, it will probably use a list of payloads that is a lot like this, and these correspond to different versions of SQL running on the web server, and any one of these might work. But it's good to know that your one authorization bypass string isn't going to work for every single. So these are kind of like keys, and the SQL databases are kind of like locks, and your one key isn't going to work for every lock. Okay, and one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is that there's an online purposely vulnerable web app called the OWASP Juice Shop, which is located right over here. And this is a great web app for testing out your web application hacking skills. I'll leave a link to that right here. And in fact, in this particular web app, there's a lot of different web app vulnerabilities that can be applied to this particular web app. One of which is the authorization bypass. So what I want you to do is I want you to navigate to the Juice Shop over here, and I want you to try to, and this is the login page right here. I want you to try to log in using the authorization bypass. So the SQL injection point is right here, and what I want you to do is I want you to try to log in. And if you're able to log in, please tell us that you were able to log in, and please tell me. So after you've successfully logged in, you should be able to click on this button labeled account, and it'll tell you which user account that you're working as. So after you've logged in, click on the account button and tell me which user you are. In the meantime, we're going to go through our summary for today's workshop. So what did we learn in today's workshop? We learned about SQL injection. So there are vulnerabilities that can lead to sensitive data exposure, admin account takeover, web server takeover, and more. We learned about error-based SQL injection. So error-based SQL injection is a type of inbound SQL injection where error messages from the database software are returned to the web app interface. So for example, this is going to return the name of the database used by the web app. Select database. This is a function that works with MySQL. And we have this particular string right here, which returns all data in a single column with the group concat function and gets the names of all the tables contained in the specific database. So this is a great little string right here, which we can use for database enumeration. And over here, this is another string right here. So using group concat, we can return all results in a single column and return all the column names from a specified table with the table name equal to this. And this fun little injection string right here, using group concat to return all results in a single column and returns all rows from the named columns from a specified table, separating the results from each row with an HTML line break. We also learned about blind SQL injection. So blind SQL injection is where the error messages resulting from improper SQL queries have been disabled, but the requests are going through nonetheless. So we also learned about authorization bypass. It's a type of blind SQL injection where insecurely written code allows the login of a user to a web app without the use of a proper username and/or password. The most basic auth bypass SQL command is illustrated by the SQL command shown above. Note that there is a space present in the command after the double dashes right here. So what's next? In the next web app hacking workshop, we're going to conclude our exploration of SQL injection with TryAcme room that we were just doing, covering Boolean and time-based SQL injection. Okay, so to our good friends, Wealth and Hachi and Ilhan, were you able to log into the OWASP Juice Shop through SQL injection? And if you were able to, which user account were you logged in as? So Hachi says root. So is it root? Oh, so sorry. Before anybody goes anywhere, I have my survey that I need to hand out to all of the Black Girls Hack members that are here. So please fill in the Google document right here and submit it, and let the people know how I did as an instructor and if you enjoyed the workshop or not. I won't take offense if you say that I didn't do a good job, and if you say that I need to improve in this place or that place or the other place. I just want to improve my my teaching methods. Hachi says admin at Juice Shop. So that is the correct answer. Okay, so how do we do it? We use our typical injection string right here. It's going to be quote or 1 = 1 dash dash and then space. And the password, it doesn't matter which password we use. So we click on login. And then if we click on the account right here, it says that we're logged in at admin as juice-sh-op. Okay, so we just use our SQL injection technique, our authorization bypass, to log in to the web app without knowing what the username or password was. Great. Okay, so congratulations to Hachi for doing the SQL authentication bypass. Right. So, what are we talking about now? We have to talk about what we're doing with the rest of the week. So on Wednesday, we're going to have another stream. Let's take a look at the HackerFrogs Reddit page. And if you're not part of the HackerFrogs Reddit page, please consider joining us over here. This is where we do all of our announcements. If you have any questions about beginner level cybersecurity questions, you can go ahead and post in this subreddit, and we'll try to answer the questions as best we can. So this is week 14, and today we're doing web app hacking number 5 with SQL injection. On Wednesday, at the same time as we started today, we're going to be doing extra credit, which is more SQL injection exercises. We're going to be doing more in-band and login bypass. We're going to be doing that on Wednesday from 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, depending on if you're on the West Coast or the East Coast of North America. And on Friday, we're going to have a special third live stream of the week. That's going to be a little bit later. It's going to be at 8 p.m. or 11 p.m. And we're going to be going through more of the challenges of the Pico CTF. The Pico CTF event, which happened about 2 weeks ago. So if you wanted to participate in these live streams, we would really appreciate it. Otherwise, next week on Monday, which is going to be April the 8th, we're going to be doing our next web app hacking workshop, which is going to be a conclusion of the SQL injection techniques that we're going to be talking about today. In that case, we're going to be talking about Boolean-based SQL injection and time-based SQL injection. So please look forward to that. Before we go, I'd like to remind you that I do have a YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/theshyhat. I suppose that Walt and Hachi both know because you're on that particular channel right now. And on that channel, you can see all the workshops associated with the HackerFrogs program. We have three types of workshops right now. We have web app hacking, we have Python programming, and we have Linux OS operations. To everybody who participated in today's workshop, I'd like to say thank you very much, and I will ask the question: is this a hacking? So this is just a fun little. This is just a fun little video redeem that I have over here. You guys can feel free to redeem it yourself if you really want to. But yeah, so we're going to be streaming again on Wednesday and then on Friday. We're going to be doing this again on Wednesday and then on Friday. I would hope to see you there. If not, I would love to see you guys on Monday. Until then, have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much to Yaya for subscribing. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy yourself here.